YouTube, we're talking college sports in the Deep South where college football is king, and on the plains of Auburn, the battle cry is War Eagle. Once again, it's Kennard Vernon Stewart for Vernon Speaks Sports Auburn, and we're talking about Auburn football like it's nobody's business. Let's go ahead and get this comment section active. Fearless and True Gang, let's go ahead and get the conversation going. In the meantime, go ahead and like this video and subscribe to Vernon Speaks Sports Auburn, as we're talking about Auburn football almost every day. We're talking Auburn football back from 2018. We're still on the impact player kick. We want to really acknowledge, Auburn just really kind of struggled a lot of ways offensively in a very uncharacteristic kind of way. And there are a lot of fingers that can be pointed at different entities of the offense. You can look at a quarterback who just didn't live up to the bill last year in Jarrett Stidham. I think a talented quarterback and probably will be very valuable in the NFL, especially in the system that he's in with Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots. Then you look over to a very inexperienced and undersized running backs core that were prone to injury. Of course, Boobie Whitlow with 700 plus yards. Spent a lot of the season injured and or battling protection of the football, but had some strong points as well. 700 yards for Boobie Whitlow last year. Cam Martin put in his usual 400, and then Sean Shivers, a contributor as well. Then we look at the wide receiver core, who lost Eli Stove, Will Hastings, and Nate Craig Myers via transfer portal. So there you have the lack of reliability there and experience there. So there were a lot of contributing factors to the downfall of the offense on last season. But the main one, guys, the main one that I get, the main one that I hear, the main one that I see on social media and every other outlet that I look at is the offensive line. I'm talking about the offensive line gets the bad end of the stick when it comes to 2018 offense for the Auburn Tigers. And you look at the stretch for Auburn, there were very few games that Auburn tallied up more than 400 yards. As a matter of fact, they were doing good in games to tally up 300 yards. And in some games, even the win against Texas A&M, less than 300 yards in that game. I still, to this day, cannot fathom how Texas A&M let the Auburn game slip away from them last year, because it just didn't make sense. Auburn could not move the ball at all up until that Noah Igbenogany interception, and that's when the floodgates opened for the Auburn Tigers. Auburn stealing that game and quite possibly putting a little less pressure on Gus Malzahn down the stretch, and all but, in my opinion, salvaging the season. Most of the offensive struggles, from what I could see based on video footage, came right up the middle, and that none other than Kaleb Kim. See, when you're a center, especially in this type of offense and especially against the SEC, you have to be one of the strongest, and you have to be one of the most agile players on the football field at center, because usually at the center position, you're responsible for the immediate point of attack, because usually when you're looking at a run-pass option, if you can't hold your ground, that run-pass option is done. And in a lot of cases, Kaleb Kim just could not handle, especially against the elite nose guards, interior defensive tackles of the SEC. A lot of times he did struggle in a lot of ways. And I think, him really being able to upgrade from last year to this year is going to be very important for the Auburn Tigers to be successful in the SEC. Now, I'm going to tell you some things that'll help him out. For one, you're going to have a quarterback who actually runs the run-pass option. Because, you're blocking for a scheme in the run-pass option with Jarrett Stidham. And the pass option is an option, but the run pass option is not. Jarrett Stidham was not running the football for the most part. Every now and then he would, but for the most part, you can tell based on his demeanor and his approach to the game that he was not trying to run the football. Not to the point where he was trying to sacrifice himself like, say, a Joey Gatewood would, or Cam Newton, or Nick Marshall would. No, man. It was a design pass. It was a design running play, and he was basically going to be untouched. So that's one of the things that the offensive line were up against last year. You're blocking for a scheme that's not happening, and that the opposing defense is not falling for at all, because they know Jarrett Stidham is not going to run the football. Second of all, when you have situations like this, I think Auburn did themselves a disservice by getting away from what worked early on in the Washington game. A lot of quick strikes, a lot of quick hitting plays. When you have an offensive line that's somewhat inexperienced, you got to do quick stuff. All the slow developing plays that Auburn, all the cute stuff, you can't do. What's going to happen? They're going to get stuck. They're going to get stuffed in the backfield, and guess what? Your offensive line is going to lose confidence. So those are the things that I just didn't understand. The quick passes they got away from. They started to get kind of cute with that bubble screen. It just absolutely was not going to work like it did in 2017. And it got the offense to a point where the offensive line, you're hearing every day how anemic you are. Your confidence is going to start to erode. Snap the ball. Jarrett Stidham is running for his life. Most of the pressure coming right up the middle. So that's why I feel that Kaleb Kim is going to have to really upgrade from last year to this year, because he's going to have that physicality up front. He's going to have that coordination of where he can snap the ball and immediately have some type of physical impact on the guy in front of him. And a lot of times in 2018 just didn't happen for the Auburn Tigers. You look down the stretch for the Auburn Tigers, only one, maybe two games where they got over 400 yards, not including the Purdue game. But things got really, really questionable for the Tigers down the stretch, where a lot of games went less than 300 yards. And for the most part in the SEC, you just can't win like that. You got to be able to move the football. And to team up with that, you also have lack of time of possession, which does wear and tear on an otherwise pretty good defense for the Auburn Tigers. So this year we just expect more. Of course, all of these guys are coming back on the offensive line. They're going to be coached by J.B. Grimes, who has a pretty decent track record of coaching offensive linemen. Also, you got Gus Malzahn calling plays. Gus Malzahn calling plays usually does a couple of things. Usually he scores points. Usually he racks up a lot of yards. And usually, very importantly, especially with the lack of depth that Auburn has on both sides of the football field, that a lot of folks are really taking for granted, that time of possession is going to be real key into making sure that there are not too many miles on that defense this year. Because those miles started to add up, especially in the Mississippi State game, Alabama game, and Georgia. Auburn's going to have to hang on to the football for a little bit longer. The 3-and-outs are going to prove deadly, especially in the big games. Oregon, Texas A&M, Florida, Mississippi State, LSU. You gotta have some degree of time of possession. Help your defense out a little bit. All right, guys, let me know what you think about Kaleb Kim and the offensive line for the Auburn Tigers coming into 2019. I will do a video thoroughly discussing the offensive line, but I think an impact player this year is going to be the play of Kaleb Kim. If he doesn't make it happen at that center position, Auburn is going to struggle in some ways. Once again, it's K-Stu the GOAT for Vernon Speaks Sports Auburn, better known as Kennard Vernon Stewart, here on the podcast. Go ahead and like this video, subscribe to Vernon Speaks Sports Auburn. And as always, over here in these parts, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger, War Eagle.